thank you so much for being here. I am Monal and I am going to try and moderate this. However, I think it will be well moderated if we all participate in this. Welcome to you all too. I just want to very quickly play a small game, if that is okay. Just to start it off, I need 3 volunteers from here. You can just be in your seats, but just raise your hand. 3 volunteers. I see someone forcing, but that's okay, that's fine. Yeah, can you keep your hands up? 3 volunteers. Okay, okay, 3 of you, and 3 volunteers from here. I need 3, come on. Okay, so the game is that this group the 3 volunteers will come up with one question, one question each. Okay, don't tell me, don't tell the rest of the people. Okay, just write your question. And this group comes up with one answer. Don't tell me, don't tell others, don't tell your friend also with whom you are co-doing this. Yeah, and then we'll see what it does. Yeah, so just take like a minute or 2 minutes as you want and just write down your question, your answer. The 3 volunteers only. The others can just enjoy what it is going to do. Any time, whatever comes as at top of your head. Yeah, you may want to write down or in your answers. Who were the 3 people here? 1, 2, 3, the answering guys. I'll tell you that. Yeah, you just note down your answer. And let it be only one line, like not like an essay, because we have to get to the session too, but I know. Ready? Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to avoid an essay, but that's about it. Okay, ready? Okay, who was, so yeah, you're right. There'll be one question thrown from here, and one of you that I point out can give your answer. Whatever answer you have decided. You've decided some answer, na? And we'll see what happens. So you're throwing your question first? No, you can share.
No. So my question was, how is your day?
How is your day?
Your answer is happy.
Happy, wow. Wow. Who's the second questioner? Oh, you were.
Hi, similar question. My question was, how have you been lately?
How have you been lately? Who wants to answer? You had the answer, or you had?
Yes. Mangoes.
Like mangoes. There was a third question, yeah. It's mangoes, yes.
What will they serve for today's lunch? What will they serve for today's lunch?
Someone is already hungry. Go ahead. Go ahead. After 1.5 hours. Yeah, but thank you for participating. Thanks. I just did this because the topic that we are going to talk about, we felt that while there are experts, practitioners here. And of course, we value them. But we would really value if all of us participate, even if it creates mangoes and go ahead. That's perfect. So it would be wonderful if we all contribute to the conversation that we're going to have. And with that, I want to again come back to all of you and welcome you all. I will I'll request that each one of you tell your name and the organization that you're from. I'll take that.
Hello everyone, I'm Medha from Tan 90.
Hello everyone, my name is Ansar. I'm from Dream a Dream, Bangalore.
Hello, my name is Elijah Bach from Bach Family Foundation in New York City.
Hi everyone, I'm Surabhi and I'm the co-founder of Twarit Arts Collective India.
Hello, I'm Preetha and I am from Magic Bus.
Great. Oh, I have mine. Maybe you should put it there. So the topic for today, as you all know, is learning, or rather quality learning in in context of 21st century skills, or 21st century. And as I was thinking about it, the thing that I realized was that we are in the 25th year actually of the 21st century. And then, therefore, what does it mean for all of us? I was thinking about how education and quality education has evolved over the last few centuries. And I realized that, last century had a certain kind of focus around what kind of skills do students learn, because there was a focus on what kind of people do you want to build for the country, for maybe the factories. At least in the beginning of the 20th century, there was a need for a certain kind of skills in people, because you needed people to run your factory, or you needed people to run your manufacturing unit and all of that. And to some extent, probably that kind of continued till the end of the 20th century. And probably that's why I thought that thinking about learning quality and thinking about what kind of educational experiences do children need in today's context is critical. The second thing that I was thinking was that in the 21st century, at the moment, we probably have something like a climate change that is globally happening. We have something like global terrorism that continues happening. And we have several other things that keeps happening in our country too, in the country, in the states, all of that. So what does that mean in terms of what kind of educational experiences should be provided to children to be able to deal with what they are going to, encounter once they are out of the schooling system. So I think that's the context in which I invited them, and that's the context in which I want to invite all of you also. So according to you all, what does this educational experience mean? If a few of you can give me some idea around what your thoughts are, and then we'll come to each one of you. Mangoes?
sorry, I don't mean to hog the mic, but when you were mentioning and comparing with the 20th century, what was education at that time? The needs and the priorities and all. I was just thinking that it feels to me, even going earlier than 20th century, it feels to me like a lot of effort of at least what's happening in the classroom or the school is to separate it or distance it from what's happening outside, or distance the students from the rest of their world, right? And I think that maybe just an initial feeling that maybe the 21st century will be more about reconnecting this, to see that the challenges of the 21st century are already there wherever the school is supposed to be or wherever the child is. And so reconnecting that learning experience with that might be one thought that I've had.
Thank you so much. Other thoughts? Sure.
I think what used to happen before was more of a hierarchical structure. The teacher walked in and she had something to share, and the kids had to just buy that. I think now the education being what it is, children are allowed to be stakeholders of it. They're allowed to also take a call about how they would like to see their own class and education pan out for them. I see that a lot.
And we could go for one more thought. Where does this mic go? Yeah, sure. Is that okay? Oh, you have a mic there. Thank you.
Yeah. So just in my point of view, that education is very broader term. Like how can people be happy, joyfully, live their life? So that is term educations in this century.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful ideas. Thank you so much for these ideas already. And maybe we could go to each one of you and go ahead and learn. There are people who work on STEM education, arts, sports, life skills, and then of course parents. So that's the kind of range of understanding that we have here. And my request to each one of you is to look at it from the perspective of your work and bring in some new ideas or add to the ideas that have already been kind of shared. And there's no 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoever feels ready can go ahead. Yeah, please.
The older
Fantastic.
one. Yeah. With a panel of so young of them. Yeah. Magic Bus, we've been working with what we call as sports for development. We are looking at life skills being integrated into the whole act of sports. Now, sports doesn't mean just the PE period in schools. Most of the time, that's how we look at it. But for the last 26 years, we have tried our work to look at how do you look at life skill itself. Now, when you look at 21st century skills, in every sports, you need something called resilience. You need EQ, emotional quotient that you need, emotional intelligence you need quick problem solving and decision making. And it's quick. How the ball is coming in cricket, because the cricket is going on now, the batter cannot think, oh, let me see how to do it. No, you're going to have a decision like this. So sports really helps you to integrate most of these life skills. And what we do in Magic Bus is we create sessions for each of these life skills through competencies, and these sessions are worked through basic sports like football, kho-kho, kabaddi, and things like that. And we try our best to create that a gender balance, which means boys and girls play together. So there is so much of, although we speak about equity, we also make children understand that we are just students and we are not going to look at each other as gender. So from school, if we start that, of course, when they go home, there is gender disparity. But how do you bring the children to have an understanding that we can play together? There is nothing called we are weak and you are strong or something like that. If we have the trick to play the game, including all the life skills that we are talking about. And within that, we have something called the reflective exercises, where we sit together and reflect what happened in the game. Where should I make the right decision? For that, what didn't I have the skill to make the right decision at that minute? So our reflective exercises are largest in the sessions. We have 15 out of a 40-minute session, 15 minutes is reflective. We are thinking, what is the decision that I could have made better to make this game better? So basically, we are looking at very simple sessions, etc. So in due course of time, you're also making the sports space very inevitable. Today, PT period science teachers and maths teachers take away, and they say they want to finish the syllabus. I still remember, even I always tell, Monal, I am more senior than you, so you can imagine. So last 35 years I have been working, so you can imagine, all tapering end of retirement. So in my time they did that, and I'm seeing even my niece's time this happening. And the students that I'm working with, it's happening. No, science teacher ne bola, so we have given the science PT period to them. But that's not the truth. Sports is just not games. It's not comes under extracurricular. Even the NEP talks it about, co-curricular, which I don't believe in. We in Magic Bus think it should be a part of the curriculum itself. Because sports teaches you a lot of things, not only equality, but lots of things. It teaches skills. So I think in Magic Bus we do that. And for us, 21st century skills is also resilience, also self-efficacy. You're talking about problem solving, decision making. All these are all part of life skills for us, and which we look at from what do we call at S4D, the sports for development. Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about, because she spoke about sports.
Yeah, you can also.
The arts perspective.
Yeah. Growing up, I've always had an inclination towards art. I've learned Bharatanatyam, I've learned Hindustani Sangeet, and I've also learned how to paint, etc. And when I reflect on what impact it has had, it's multifold, right? One is, it has taught me so many skills which my academics did not teach. For example, when I'd go on stage, I remember my first few performances, I was so nervous I forgot all the choreography I was supposed to do on stage. But over time, it built resilience, it built confidence, it helped me work with a team of people, and there is so much research to back that up, right? There is a lot of studies done in organizations like the Harvard Graduate School of Education. It has a wing that focuses on figuring out what actually builds up human potential called Project Zero. And there's a lot of research that backs up saying art builds so many skills that are required to function in the real world. It builds collaboration, it builds emotional intelligence, it builds it builds collaboration, confidence. It helps you also sort of work on your mental well-being. At least it does for me. When I paint, I sort of it's very therapeutic for me. And I'm sure if any of you have done sports or arts, that's the feeling it leaves you with. Also a sense of accomplishment that you were able to achieve something so fast. It is unfortunate that arts, sports is still considered co-curricular or extracurricular even till date, whereas it should be a part of an everyday routine. It shouldn't be given that title either, that it is extracurricular. It should be part of the curriculum. And I'm hoping that all the change makers in this room and outside will sort of drive that movement, because 21st century skills like, I'm sorry, I don't know your name mentioned, it's important for the children as well as adults to also get closer to the world and not be in that shell of your school boundary. And there are so many ways of bringing the world to the children, and I don't see better ways than art and sports, and in combination with everything else that the children learn in a classroom.
Okay.
Hello everyone. So I think if I take my own life, a journey from the childhood, it's been arts. I'm an origamist. I make a lot of origamis. I make toys from the trash, whatever I get. So because the childhood what I went through was where nobody was there to listen, and something was there to listen was that is the arts, and I can express it. I can talk to something what I really want. So that's how the journey started. So now, while working, I think it's been 20 years of experience working uh, in this social sector. So one thing what I really realized, every child has its own skills. Maybe if I really want to take a step back and differentiate little bit between skills and life skills, these are two different things. Skills are something that I think we intend to learn, we learn, we make perfect on it, and then the life skills is something that I really want for my life to lead. Uh, Somewhere I feel like if I'm not ready to make any decisions, I think it is there in me. I have to invoke it. If I have to take a leadership or a decision making, it's there in me, but I have to invoke it. But how it will happen? I think there is uh, the major role what we play as an adult, a caring adult, a compassionate adult in children's life, young people's life. So, if we really look into it, then we can see that every child has its own life skills. This is how we also work through arts and sports in Dream a Dream, where we say there is a curriculum, but we don't believe in curriculum. Curriculum is just a guide or a medium, but what we do on ground is the experience. What we create is an experience, and what children talk is experience. What they go through is the experience, and that's how children learn, and it will be lifelong lasting. So this is how we do. It's kind of a structure 2 hours session. We call it as even 2 hours arc of transformation, where we begin with powerfully and we end with a meaning, creating a meaning, and we celebrate our maybe success, failures, and the meaning itself. So that's how uh, Dreamer Dreams approach working on life skills and social emotional learning. Yeah.
So Monal, coming back to, like, I'll start with, where I think the disparity lies, at least my understanding of it. I feel like formalized education, like you rightly said, the way it was structured was to put people into industries and factories, right? And somewhere every time it has been in sync with technology. But now the swing that technology is taking, our education system somewhere has been sleeping along the way, and then we've suddenly woke up to saying that our children are not skill ready, our children don't know this, they don't know that. there's a we've created this disparity in what we're teaching in the class and what the real world needs, right? And that is where we're coming back and saying that what are these skills that were needed. um, I feel they've always existed. Very few people have displayed them in the past because they had probably different sources of having learnt them or practiced them, and we celebrated them as outliers. And then now we are hoping to make everybody an outlier by suddenly shaking up the system. Um, with that, when we started Tan 90, for us the idea was, we feel that at the core of everything is curiosity, and how do we enable this curiosity? So the idea at Tan 90 always for us was, can we create a space for children to be curious at their own pace? And how do we then kind of facilitate this behavioral change in the school system, that they allow children to be curious? And then through this enablement of curiosity, sorry, this sounds very poetic in a way, but through this enablement we are hoping that children can then learn to
emphasize or their agency, be more confident, and slowly start showing critical thinking and these abilities that we want them to display later in their workforce. So that's the idea with TAN 90 as well. Can we create these spaces in schools and then nudge our teachers and the system to accept this, being curious, being okay with disruption, letting children be a little chaotic, and being okay with all of that.
And I also want to, go to you to look at how does all of this look like when you think about it from a parenting perspective. This, by the way, everything that you all are describing seems to be a lot of change and a lot of disruptive way of thinking. So schooling system definitely needs to change, is what I'm taking back. Does parenting need to change? How does a parent look at her child and her child's learning? Does that change?
Yes.
Does that need to even change at all?
Yeah, really happy to be here and thank you. And you really set me up like I'm a parenting expert, but I'm not.
It's a setup.
So just to tell you a little bit about what I do. So actually I come from a very different, so my professional career of 20 years has been real estate investment. So I really have nothing to do with parenting. But then during that 20-year time, I was fortunate enough to get married and started having children. So I have 3 children now, and 2 of them are kind of running around here. You may have seen them. So I naturally became interested in education and parenting because I became a parent, and personally, I was really looking forward to becoming a parent because I didn't have a father myself. My parents were divorced when I was very young, so I was raised by a single mom. So even long before I even got married, I was sort of determined, one day when I become a dad, I'm not going to be like my dad, and I'm going to try to be there for my kids. So leading up to that moment, I had very high level of anticipation. And as soon as I became a dad, the first thought that came to me is, okay, what do I do? Because I never learned how to be a dad, anything like that. So initially I thought it was because of my upbringing of not having a dad, I'm feeling that way. But it turns out when I talk to my friends who have other kids who had both parents, or what kind of background they had, they all sort of feeling the same way. They want to be good parents, but they just don't know what to do. So I sort of decided with my wife, doing this one thing of real estate investment for 20 years is a long time. And also that was in the beginning of 2020. That was the 20th year of doing that business. And in January of 2020, I also turned 40 years old, and having number 4 in front of my age felt like a big deal. And maybe it's a time for a new chapter of my life. And then, like I said, I had children, so we decided to set up this foundation to do something completely different. And so what are we gonna do? So we want to focus the mission of the foundation to support parents. And okay, what are we actually gonna do now that we want to support parents? So I thought about how many decisions, by the way, how many of you have children? Can you show hands? Some of you have kids. So you know how many decisions we make on a daily basis when we are raising kids. And if you think about it, almost none of those decisions we make are based on anything. And you talk about in the last what centuries. But I think I don't have any data for this, but I'm pretty sure from the beginning of humanity until now, the way we make these parenting decisions, that hasn't changed that much, because we make decisions based on how we were raised by our parents, what our friends are doing, what we nowadays maybe we see on social media, so they're not really based on evidence. So I thought, well, what if all these decisions we make as parents are based on some kind of evidence, the research evidence? Then maybe the outcome will be a little bit better. So that's what we decided to sort of focus on our foundation's work to commission these multiple universities to get me the data on how parental engagement plays a role in different areas of children's development. And because I also know that if I share these reports with parents, nobody's going to read it. So we convert the data into media content because people nowadays consume information on their phones when the media formats. So we convert that into media. And because I have no way of getting that into the hands of parents, we give it to school district leaders, government ministries, like international organizations, and some NGOs on the. So we just give it to them, and then we ask them to share it with people in their countries and wherever they serve, and then we hire some organizations like the OECD and like some think tanks to measure the impact of whether this is actually making any difference or not. So I do now have some, so it's been 5 years since I started that kind of work. And so in terms of art, sports, or social emotional learning, so I have seen pretty solid evidence in any of these fields when and if parents are engaged at any level, the outcome is dramatically different. So whether you come from, so this is my first time to Bangalore. I've only been to India. This is my second time. Last year I was in New Delhi because my foundation now works with India's Minister of Education. And when I was sort of driving around, I see these like a very big disparity, like some slums, and then there are some people who are very upper class and with very high level of education. But regardless of where they are, as I said earlier, they all have no clue of what they're doing with their children. So that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to, so I'll tell you one more thing. So there are mainly 4 pillars of kind of principles that my foundation does its work on. The first is I already told you that I believe that every parent in the whole world, regardless of their background, they want to be good parents. They want their children to be happy and successful. Second pillar is that to all of these parents, the most important person in their lives is their children. Right? And I know that in India, parents give birth to many children in the household. So maybe some of your parents think that it's your brother or sister, but generally speaking, they think that it's you who are the most important people in their lives. And third, as I said earlier, as much as they love you, as much as they want to be good parents, they all have no idea. And fourth is probably the most critical point that based on all this evidence that I've been collecting, is that there are far more number of children in the world who have access to parents than the number of children who have access to schools and teachers. And this global population of parents, they're extremely underutilized. And if we can support those parents on how they can actually better engage with their children, the outcome will be drastically different. So that really is a focus of my work. So so that was a long intro to get back to what you asked me about, okay, has parenting changed? But the short answer is probably not. And what I'm trying to do is to support parents so that they can make some better informed decisions in their parenting journey on a daily basis. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll take it. So just like you were mentioning about parents, a lot of my work is with the state systems. And often I end up saying very similar things, that parents don't have any idea how to bring up their children, but even the schooling systems are just about getting there to know what they should be doing with students. We just get students into the classroom and then we do something, and by God's grace, something happens. So it's quite miraculous as of now. But I think I want to go like a kind of a level deeper into this, and because to me, the differentiator between what kind of learning experiences were there in the 20th century and what is there or needs to be there in 21st century is also a lot about how learning experiences build the brain of a child, and therefore the potential of how the child is going to grow up being something. And I don't mean being in terms of I became an engineer or doctor or something like that, but who that child becomes and how that child learns to process the world around. So I just invite any one of you or all of you to speak about what have you noticed in your work around how the work that you do, how it has helped children grow. And I'm not talking as yet about measurement. I'm just talking about, you know, potentially what kind of brain development happened, what kind of overall development happened. So just some thoughts around that. And whoever is ready and wants to go first. And I also invite if there are experiences around the group here that you all want to share. But first, anyone from here? Yeah.
I'll go first.
Yeah, sure.
This is more of anecdotal evidence from what we've been
Yes.
seeing in our. So we set up STEM labs, STEM spaces in schools, and then kind of try and nudge everybody to let children be curious in those spaces. Couple of things that we've seen is, and quite interestingly, we've seen children shift from being scared, looking around for instructions, saying, "Am I allowed to touch?" to within a few months being confident enough to say, I have the agency to explore. So that's one big shift in confidence, self-esteem levels, and the ability to be able to say that if I am in a space, I'm going to own it. Right. So that's one thing that we see across our labs. The other thing that we notice is that the moment children are able to relate the content that they are being forced to learn, which is, and mostly in a negative connotation with math and science, things that they don't like at all, when they are able to see the real world application of it, suddenly learning becomes interesting. Suddenly they want to see, they want to try everything. They want to see how a pulley works, to, how to make a catapult out of it, and then what can I do with it, and then have a good time. And then go on to then say that around me, which problems can I identify? And we see that within a year of, interacting with students. So definitely, I feel if the schooling system changes, you definitely give children more space to grow and become the adults they want to be.
Lovely. So agency and creating the space for students to be who they want to be. Yeah, sure.
I just want to take a step back and talk about the experience. When we go to classroom, it's with young people. I think when they find out that today is their session, we see that 100% attendance. We see them in the ground when they are playing football. We see them in indoor when they are doing creative arts session. And at the same time, when there is no session, we see the dropout number. This is not just saying because we are doing something good. I just want to take a step back and go here. Every child comes from the expectation, and they have a certain needs. There are children who are single parents. There are children who are unloved, not being seen, not cared much. There is no food, and there is a lot of domestic violence happens at home. So when you see this, their social emotional being is drastically goes down, and this is the only one period, 1 hour or 2 hours, where children feel that they want to shout, they want to talk, they want to just express what they are. I think that space, what they really want in their life, just to experience what is happening. Uh, so this is what happens when we work with children who comes from adversity, and when they experience this kind of activities or workshops or sessions, they feel that this person is listening to me. I think what I really feel is it's not only with the children or teachers, it is a system who has to, who supposed to and who have to accept the child however and whoever the child is, which is really missing right now in the Indian education system, especially. There is one more problem which is I am looking at right now. This is also causing the social emotional well-being. One, you already have so much problem. Now, I think when I was studying, we were not talking about any caste and religion, though it was there. But now it's so open that even if this is my own daughter's experience, when she went to like new school, a new friend in 7th standard, and it has been asked like which religion you are. Now it's so inbuilt, it is like planned, unplanned, or intentionally, unintentionally, it is being put in the children's mind that there is a religion and caste living with you. So you have to identify that as well. So it's so annoying, so irritating when the child comes and asks this question to me, what should I tell? So this is one more thing which again are dragging children to somewhere else. So I think we have to work with the system to shift the mindset. If the mindset shift happens in the system, then definitely it is going to happen slowly with parents in the community, and it is going to happen in children. So this is what I have experienced in my work. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we arrived here, the organizers, they put us into a hotel maybe like 10, 15 minutes drive from here. And it's a beautiful hotel. And the view from our room, like immediately in front of our hotel, is this kind of a, like, I don't know how to even describe it. It's like a slum area. And yesterday, so after we were here yesterday, and after it was over, we went back to hotel, and it was still, pretty bright. So I took my boys out there, and we just kind of walked, and they saw some things they had never seen in their lives before. They grew up in New York City. They were like grabbing chickens out of this cage, and then the people sitting on the street selling vegetables, and there were little children. So my boys were 10 and 8. They were sitting, so they saw their age group children just on the street like that. And and then all these motorcycles going by and like honking. So it was like a really new experience, not just for them, also for me as well. And after that, we came back, and when we were eating dinner, I asked them, what do you think is the difference between those children you just saw and you? They didn't do anything. They were just born there, and you were just born to families like my family. And so there is really no difference. But just because they were born into different kinds of homes, the outcome in their life trajectory is probably going to be pretty different. And why does it have to be that way? And that is something that, I mean, it was a real experience for them, but that is something that people talk about a lot in America as well, especially in the last few days. This term about inequity, injustice, inequality, things like that. So they do talk about that a lot. And even where I live in Manhattan, if you just go maybe like 5-6 miles north of it in the Bronx, there are people, there are children dying from hunger. So it's not just that there are poor people in India or Africa. There are poor people everywhere. So that is an issue, and I'm so glad that you mentioned about the mindset, because that's something that my foundation is really trying to work on. So actually the reason why I'm here at this conference was because of my boys. I don't know if you've seen them. They are the ones who were actually invited to this conference first. So they started a little business last year where they go to interview some university professors, asking them about what their research is about, because nobody knows about their work. And the researchers, their struggle is nobody reads their work. So they're trying to connect this dot. So and because they are children, these professors, they sort of have to explain their work in a very simple way, and they record the conversation, they put it on social media, so everybody have easy access to learn about their work and maybe apply and benefit from it. So that's the business. So because they've been putting it on social media, Kyushibu, who runs this conference, she found them on LinkedIn, and then they contacted them. And because I'm managing their social media accounts, so so that's why they were invited, and I was just coming as a chaperone. And then she learned about what I do, and then, oh, actually, can you also be a part of the program? So that's how it happened. But because of what my boys are talking about in their work is about that inequity. And they're talking about this usage of technology and the availability of technology in today's world. So their business is entirely run on technology. I don't give them any support, no financial support, no anything, but they have a computer and they have internet. And now they have this thing called like ChatGPT and all that. So I just told you about their business, what they do, but in order to actually run it like a business, they need money, right? But I don't give them any money, and they tell me, well, how am I gonna I need money to do this. And say, well, then you have to pitch your idea to investors. And if you want to do that, you're going to need a business plan, and you're going to need to pitch it to investors. So how am I going to make the business plan? Well, ask ChatGPT and just talk about, just write what you're doing and ask it to give you a business plan. And it's incredible how thorough of a business plan it will give you. And then they basically copy it and paste it into another website that turns that thing into a presentation slides. And they attach their file to an email and then send it to all these venture capital firms, the cold email written by ChatGPT. And then they get a response from all these people. It's crazy. Oh, they're there right now. They're walking in. Yeah. So that's what they're doing. And then, so recently, so that's how they're running their business. It's kind of crazy just watching them do it. And recently, they've been asked to talk about how this is actually helping, this usage of technology that's available to everybody, how that can actually remove that equity gap. So, and that requires a change in mindset. So that's where it comes. So I talked about this little bit of background just to get to that point. Because most of these parents who are coming from low-income communities, most of them have never gone to college or maybe any college, and many of these people that my foundation support in Africa, they don't even know how to read. And obviously because of many factors, they don't have any kind of financial resources in their homes. So they do think that just because I'm in that situation, my children will probably going to repeat the same kind of cycle. And I have collected enough research evidence that it doesn't have to be that way. And that's where the mindset shift comes in. So my boys, when they are going around to these different elementary schools to talk about this importance of mindset change, that really does make a difference. And it's not just my opinion or their opinion, it is a evidence-based statement. And I do work with actually the greatest minds of that, the book Mindset, Carol Dweck. I personally work with her. You may have heard of Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit. So these are like a core competencies that people do need. And when you speak with the people who wrote these books, and when they're sharing how much of a research evidence that they actually have collected to conclude that this actually works, it's kind of an incredible tool that we really want to instill in every parent's mindset and children's mindset. So that's how I see that this is working. Yeah.
Art is not an alien concept to any of us, right? Growing up, we've seen art in front of every house as rangoli. There's so much symmetry in that. We see babies grabbing onto things. They touch and feel textures. They see colors, blobs. And then as they grow, even in child development, art has played a huge role. And there are so many tests to see how the child is growing, if they are putting the star in the right star slot, circle in the correct circle slot, etc. Right? As they grow older, the same art sort of starts playing a different role. It helps them, like I'd mentioned earlier, emotional regulation. And just following up on what Ansar mentioned earlier, I used to teach in a government school in Hyderabad, and I had a very angry child who was growing up in a very violent household. His solution of dealing with that sort of anger was to come and lash out on other children in the classroom, beat them up, just walking and then like give one punch and go. And in my first year of this Teach for India fellowship, I started noticing this child's patterns, and I had a conversation and realized because of the kind of household he was being brought in, he was lashing out. I also noticed other times that he used to doodle a lot. He loved doodling. So we sort of struck a deal saying, whenever you feel angry the next time, even if it's in the middle of a class, I got him a drawing book and a set of crayons. I said, just doodle away. It's fine. I will not ask you why you're not paying attention in the class. Just doodle. Day after day, his doodle book kept getting filled up, and I was replacing it with other doodles. But the amount of incidents where this child was hitting other children reduced. That's when I sort of personally realized how much of a role art can play in a child's life. And again, going back to my own experience, I think even during pandemic, right, we were all cooped up in one room, and life was not normal. And even at that point, I run a lot of art challenges on my Instagram page, and I had so many people join in, and a lot of them also mentioned that, hey, like it helped me deal with anxiety, it helped me focus, etc. So art in a child's development or even through adulthood does not just work on like improving your grades or helping you build communication, etc., but it also helps one intrinsically to reflect, to like Ansar was saying again, thinking about themselves, also figuring out their own identity. And again, this I see in my 8-year-old niece's doodles. Like I also understand so much more about her based on how she is doodling and what she's adding in her doodles, which otherwise I don't think she would have shared with me. So I think art has played a role in all of our childhood, and I hope everyone sort of stays connected with it even as they grow older.
Thank you. That's very nice. Yeah. I think from you, it takes for me to sports is easier. When I think I come from a very primitive place, because 30 years back I was in school, maybe, or college, where sports was not considered a requirement at all. There was a PT period, yes, but no. At the same time, no. So is the schools that I started working in the 90s. They didn't have a PT teacher. And I have been working for 34 years only with government schools in this country, across the country. And when you ask, yeah, there is a vacancy, but we won't fill it. And it came from DPEP, Sarva Siksha Abhiyan, Samagra Siksha. All these programs have been coming, but PT teachers are not coming, basically. But if there is a science teacher and a maths teacher, which is very important, not there, there's a hue and cry about it. Newspaper has it. Many of them talk about it, saying they have a 10th grade, but they don't have a maths teacher. They don't have replaced, and newspaper is all over it. There's the ruling party, opposition party, all of them get into it. But what happens to a PT teacher? Now, if you take games as such, it is in a structured game. There is lots of rules that you follow. You systematically take risk and make a decision. Now, that really helps you to have a lot of perseverance. It creates a self-confidence, which is all needed in learning your science and mathematics, etc. We do not understand that we need to build a skill set to learn even the 6 subjects that we in India, we call it as language, math, science, etc. We think that the subject is more of where does the sun rise and where does the sun set is how much we have to cram and write an exam. But why is that we don't teach them the direction itself? Where is the source? And what is your grid when you're playing? Can you play within everywhere in the ground? Is there a space that is defined for you? How do you really play? How do you take roles? And when we did in the beginning, if you really say around 15, 17 years back, girls and boys playing, they were so hesitant about girls saying, how do we play with boys? They are stronger because we work with children about 12. So already they are adolescent. And they have been put in their head that they are weaker than the men around or the boys around. So they come with a lot of hesitance. But I've seen in the space of 11 months, leadership in them, they being the captain, they being taking decisions. They will yell at the boys and say, Aapne acha nahi kiya. You don't do that. I've heard the tone with the girls who came and told, how do we work with them? And the same girls coming back and saying, I think that boy, what he did was wrong. And then divide that, you stand here, you don't move, and things like that. So I think that created a lot of momentum for girls, but there's a lot of inclusivity I've seen in boys. Just recently, I went to one of the tribal areas in Maharashtra, and boys were telling, they were in the discussions like this, they are participatory. I think you guys need to participate more. So boys were telling that fathers always hit our women after drinking. Mothers, and that was a big thing. And so I said, what should you do then? The teacher said, okay, we'll see what we can do. I said, ask them what should we do. So they started discussing, and some of the girls also participated, and they said, maybe mothers should tell, they should not. Maybe mothers should speak out. And I saw 2 of the boys at once, not even a fraction of a second, said, I think that's a good answer. I think I should have told that. Than you telling me now. So I go back and tell my mother that she needs to speak. So I think, this whole acceptance, even although they are the late adolescent and they didn't know how to manage this, but another classmate told them, who is a girl, I don't think many years ago, if they don't play together, they would have accepted. They would have said, who are you to say, or something like that. Or boys and girls are kept separately. I've seen in schools where boys sit in a row and girls sit in a row. They don't talk to each other. They are grouped together with only boys and only girls, despite the government being a, co-education schools. So we are creating a separate schools between the co-education schools. So how are we looking at it? So the space that I saw, if you go to any of the magic bus schools, government schools, you'll see 10th, 9th standard children sitting together, boys and girls. They don't allow the teacher to say, boys sit here, girls sit here. They'll sit however they want. They have friends. They eat lunch together, etc. And I think this is what we are talking. We are not talking about, gender equity and things, but how do you see the children as children and tell them that when they grow up, they need to understand the space that they have, how confident they have. They're talking about risk-taking. There are many people who have said that we take more decision in the house than the parent now. I've seen girls telling, I do decision than my parents now. And they are just in 9th and 10th standard. And I've also asked parents participating. See, there is a feeling that an illiterate parent doesn't know things. Illiterate parents also want only one objective, which I needed, better for my child. Just because I am educated doesn't mean what I make is a decision for my child. What an illiterate parent does is not a decision for a child. It is a decision for a child. Every parent that I worked with, I worked in tribal areas, I worked everywhere. Even in East Africa, I worked. Every parent in different languages have told me, my children should live better than me. They have not changed that sentence except that they have spoken in different languages. So that means to tell when you bring the parent is very, very, very proud to represent that child in the school when we call them for a meeting. Because now they say, oh, my child knows how to save. Because we also look at financial literacy. Because somewhere down the line, even children should understand that, because the 21st century skills we are talking about. Foundation literacy, numeracy, India is talking about now, but we have been working on that. If you don't know to write your own name, what are you going to do? Your mother doesn't know what will happen in thrift and credit, even if he's a part of a self-help group. Just now, Kameshwari Jandiala was talking about self-help groups many years ago. We have been having self-help groups for the last how many years? More than 50 years we have been having. And parents have been doing thrift and credit. They might be fruit vendors or vegetable vendors. They have been saving every day. But have they understood how to really increase the whole income in their house? I think now parents are getting financial literacy, and many parents have come and told us in a meeting saying that now my child makes me understand how to save. So I think these are all a way of life skills which we thought the child should have. Yes, the child is learning science, maths, history. We are also helping them to clear the board exams. We have also seen a huge jump in attendance in school. Even now, as a report I came last month is saying about the highest dropout happens in 7th to 8th, 8th to 9th, and they are boys, not girls. And that's a big thing. I remember when I started work 20 years, 30 years back, girls were more dropout than boys, So what I'm saying, now the shift is boys, and now we have to understand how to keep them in school. And that, I think, is what is happening now, I think. And every way we need to understand that everyone wants to keep children in school, learning, live better. And I think life skills need to be integrated into our subjects as well. In fact, in Mizoram, we have included life skill into social science books. Because teachers will say anything beyond the textbook is out of syllabus. So how do you make them take these, sessions, etc.? So we try our best to see how a PT teacher does it, how a PT teacher also uses some of the social science textbooks into it. So the PT teacher takes now the social science, some of the periods. Before, the science teacher used to take the PT period. Now the PT teacher is taking the social science period in Mizoram. So we are thinking how to really look at it and make it an integral part of the school itself. Yesterday I was in another panel somewhere else, and they said one of them you should do is assessment. We assess our programs, but the government should also assess life skill. Only then it will become inevitable and reasons for teachers to do it, because they have exams and they have papers to do. So I think let's see how it works.
Thank you so much. Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for, I think I hear a range of things that are coming out. One, I hear that there are deep-seated inequity issues that are culturally, socially still existing. So we may have entered, and I started with saying we are in the 25th year and all of that. We may have landed into 25th year of 21st century, but there are practices that are probably, that kind of pull us back in a massive way. So that's one big picture that I'm getting, the inequity, especially social and cultural and religious and all of that. The other thing that I am hearing in a big way is there's a multitude of skills that are required to build students. It's not just like Preetha said that it's not just, it's a lot of language, math, science, but it's also a lot of other things. you're calling it life skills, you've called art education, you've called it STEM, but with a focus on life skills. You've called it entrepreneurship, and you were describing the way your own children are doing something in business. I hear that as entrepreneurship, and the key thing that I hear is a lot of agency and being able to think for themselves and think on the feet. I hear a lot of that. The third thing that I hear is it needs a lot of mindset change. From what Ansar was talking about, and from what Elijah, you were talking about, but also from what Preetha's background, work background is. I hear a lot of small wins that are required about how mindsets are changing slowly. And then continuous effort towards that. That's what I hear you talk about. And I wonder that, one, I wonder how everyone here are, all of us are thinking about this. But to me, there is also, I read it as, I don't know how to put this, but I read this as a huge narrative shift. Because the narrative remains that education, a schooling system means my child has to do well in the basic subjects. And then the narrative is about, marks, the 10th board and 12th board marks. And the narrative is about say no to sports and arts. Oh no, what a waste of time. And stuff like that. So it looks like a lot of narrative shift that we need to get into. Apart from, of course, creating the pool of excellences that each one of you have been talking about through your work. And I wonder, what does it take to build this narrative shift? Because, like I said, and I said very positively in the beginning that we have reached the 25th year, but then now I'm saying, oh God, we have reached the 25th year, what do we need to do more? So from that angle, I'm asking, what is the narrative shift required, and how do we build that as a conversation? How do we build that as a movement? And I want to, at this point, invite thoughts from each one of you to contribute here. Yeah. I saw that.
Same, they did same as in the classroom. Okay, so I think when I see the main shift which is required right now in the context of India, we should start seeing that education should be focused on making a good human being, making a good citizen, making a good global citizen, which I believe in. And all of you, many of your panelists here, we are already working with many of you here, like art education and all. I see children talking about, a 6th standard child talking about its identity. That's a big shift which is happening with help of many of you sitting here. So I think that is what a future of education looks like. If the space is given for a child to express itself, to be itself, I think that safe space, when I think during COVID, many of the children be like, no, we want to come to school. Why? It's a safe space for us. We are getting out of domestic violence. We are getting out of so many things which are happening at home. But we are here, we are safe. That safe space, make it more safer. I believe that is what I look into, like the future of education.
Thank you so much. I'll invite everyone over here, so please go ahead and share your thoughts? Sure.
Thank you. It's been insightful discussion listening to all of you. Um, so I think in last 10 years, there's been a lot of discussion around cognitive learning outcomes. And that has started happening because of assessments like ASER and assessments like national achievement surveys and state achievement surveys. Because the states, the government is getting enough data to derive those narratives to make policy level changes. I think Monal was talking about narrative building. I think we don't have enough data for 21st CC education, competencies, and skills. And how do we do that? Because when we are going to the government and we are doing, when we talk about mindset shift and everything, they're pretty much okay with the cognitive skills improving, but life skill is still not the point of discussion at policy level at this moment as well. So I think we need to start thinking around generating evidence, generating data that yes, working on life skills contributes in improving competencies for making our children future ready. So that is what I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Please go ahead. Anyone else? No, please share. No, I'm good. Okay. How about you? Oh, I can go. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm Agatha. I work for Launch Girls. So a lot of what you've been saying is very relevant to me. So we want girls, young women to be prepared kind of for the world of work, whether that's like higher education, employment, entrepreneurship. And this is where these skills kind of come into the picture. And I was really glad when I heard the word mindset, and it came from you, Ansar, right? Because I think this is the starting point. When we think about reskilling, upskilling, and we know like the future of jobs reports, World Economic Forum, there's so much data that shows that these are the skills you need for the next 5 years. Then again, the skills will change, there will be new jobs. We know we have to navigate lives to actually just like, the world will change. So a word like wordless life is just like a range of experiences. So we need to equip boys, girls with these skills and mindsets so that they know what to do and they do it with confidence. So working with girls, it actually makes me really sad when I hear 18, 19-year-old girl, she's in college, she's studying, she's doing some serious chemistry, math. But when I ask her, what are you good at? She's not really able to put three things. What are you good at? Or she thinks that the good things are what others think, like the community parents. So being limited to this very small circle, what is success? What is MNC? What is that 1 or 2 pathways to make your parents proud? So there is the change that needs to happen. It's at so many levels, so many layers, that we also realized kind of working just with a girl, it's going to be the girl against the world. So then you do have to include the parents and how they believe. Like recently I did some home visits in Raichur. So one mother said, like, if my girl gets a government job, she can work. If it's any other job, like, that's a no. So all of these really deeply rooted things, this is a yes, this is a no. Or girls saying at home, they tell me I'm good for nothing. So she's just in school to complete 10th, 12th, and then marriage is kind of the next step. So I also think, so I was born in Poland, I was raised in Poland, but I need to say I was never given kind of that opportunity to practice these skills because it's like a muscle. So if you're not exposed to this, you don't build those skills, It's not like there's one session on confidence, one session on negotiation. You have to expose them again and again and again to build this. But then, again, there are so many systemic barriers that overall it's really a huge, a mammoth task. So we are really struggling with this, like to get the girl from school, college to any meaningful employment, because we know with money comes more agency, decision-making powers, but also women are shut down. They don't do budgets at home. They don't do these things. So it really comes with kind of that level of thinking, but it's difficult to measure. It's difficult to kind of, how do you even start all of this change at this scale in India? I mean, we know, I mean, the numbers are large and there is a lot to do. So just wanted to share this. And one last thing, I think we live in a world where, and it's really sad for me, some values and beliefs are like they should be more valued, like kindness, empathy. I really wish we tell people like, be kind to others, be empathetic, but I feel like it's a very competitive world. And also parents and teachers, everyone is just competitive exams. If you're not a topper, you don't matter. So we are doing this to them. And we also want all of this change. We want people to be kind, good human beings. But is this, the world is cruel. And I think there are a lot of things that are unfair and it's not gonna change. Everything is not going to change. So sometimes I'm just feeling overwhelmed and anxious about this. Like, what is it that I can do with our organization? But sometimes you just hit the wall. And yeah. Okay, that was long. I think I was taking notes, so I just kind of, that was a bit of a word vomit kind of. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share about mindsets, beliefs, values. Yeah, it all comes down to this. It comes down to mindsets, values, beliefs. Yeah, that's the starting point. Then we can do the skilling, because if a girl doesn't think she can do something, I don't think she will learn. She would even attempt learning something. Because we face this a lot, like do this, do that, like no, I don't think I can do this. I'm not good enough is what we hear a lot. Which that narrative needs to change. Like women are strong.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It puts a lot of, I mean, you kind of built it in a very, very, very strong way, and you kind of hit the real issue where I mean, real issue of equity and inequity. So thank you so much for doing that. I think we are probably running out of time, but some additional thoughts that each one of you would like to share. Or someone from here is inspired to speak. Oh, there is, okay. You have a mic there.
So, जब डिस्कशन के दौरान मेरे दिमाग में कई सारे पॉइंट्स आ रहे थे, उनमें से एक पॉइंट ये था कि जब हम ये बात कर रहे हैं कि 21st सीसी और इस 21st सीसी के एरा में हमें बच्चों को कुछ सिखाने की ज़रूरत है, तो वो जो सिखाया जाए और जो सीखना चाहिए, ये कैसे हम उस थॉट पे पहुँचेंगे कि ये सीखेंगे तो हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। क्योंकि मैं उत्तराखंड से बिलोंग करता हूँ। उत्तराखंड के बागेश्वर का कॉन्टेक्स्ट is completely different from the Nagaland, from the Bengaluru context. तो क्या हमारे बच्चे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में रह करके कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री स्किल्स सीखें, कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री कॉम्पिटेंसीज डेवलप करें, या वो एक सेंट्रल टाइप नैरेटिव को पकड़ के और सब उस तरफ आगे बढ़ना शुरू करें? तो मुझे लगता है कि चाहे सेल्फ अवेयरनेस है, वो भी बहुत ही कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज है। स्पीति वैली की सेल्फ अवेयरनेस एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द इकोसिस्टम अबाउट द सेल्फ अवेयरनेस इज वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द बॉम्बे कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सेल्फ अवेयरनेस। तो मुझे लगता है एक उस चीज़, वो हमारे डिस्कशन का एक पॉइंट होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। एंड सेकेंड इज कि एजुकेशन क्या कंट्रीब्यूट कर रही है हमारे लोकल इकोसिस्टम को इवॉल्व होने में। अगर मैं बागेश्वर से बिलोंग करता हूं और मैं टेक्निकल स्किल सीख के आज बेंगलुरु शिफ्ट हो जाऊं, और तो क्या मैंने क्या कंट्रीब्यूट किया अपने बागेश्वर के कॉन्टेक्स्ट को? क्या मैंने वहाँ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ में कोई सपोर्ट किया? क्या मैंने कल्चरल सपोर्ट में कल्चरल ग्रोथ में कोई सपोर्ट किया? तो ये कुछ पॉइंट्स मेरे दिमाग में चल रहे थे जो हमारे कॉन्वर्सेशन के, हमारे डायलॉग्स के सेंटर में अगर हों तो हम सेंट्रलाइज थिंकिंग के साथ साथ डिसेंट्रलाइज, क्योंकि हमारा तो कंट्री ही वैसा है। तो मुझे लगता है कि हमें बड़े जो इन जनरल कॉन्टेक्स्ट हैं कि ट्राइब्स हैं, अर्बन हैं, रूरल हैं, उससे थोड़ा और ब्रेक डाउन करके थोड़े छोटे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जाकर के सोचने की भी जरूरत है। थैंक यू।
So localized solutions, localized way of thinking, and localized way of looking at the context, and then looking at equity or inequity also from that angle of what where the child is coming from, and therefore what does the context how does the context impact the child. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for
I think it's very important because I think that's very important because otherwise it's very thin line between what is mindset, what is needed, and what is a deviation. You know, you get into this whole story of deviance within a community. If you're going to not say that a child can do this and we can work on it within the given geographical limit or geographical region or regional, we have to always consider the ecosystem as well. Otherwise, see, I came from, if you really see NAS, and she was talking about NAS and SLAS about assessment. I came from very, very strong education, working in education, making children work. I worked in NAS, SLAS. In fact, the Secretary of Education, Sandhya, who's there, I worked with her for almost 13 years in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. I worked with developing assessments, bringing in, third-party assessments into it in 2004, etc. So I came from there, started the girl child program called Nannikali, which is only the girl child program in India first in 2003, and then I'm now into this whole scenario. So I can understand how it was to make, even that time, to make people think that in 2002, that what you're learning and getting marks in 10th standard is not what learning is, it's memorizing. Even to give them the definition, don't tell learning is memorizing. Memorizing is done only with one part of the brain called memory. How do I really make these people understand, even teachers, even our own system? So I think from there we have come a long way. I've been part of the SLAS, developing items for the assessments, etc., training people to develop. So from there the journey, and then looking at only girls. And now in this Magic Bus, girls started even now wearing shorts in tribal areas for football. That's a big shift, mind. You have to understand, for a Bangalorean or to a Delhi person, wearing shorts by girls is very easy. But for a tribal person and the teammate, they are in a team where boys and girls are playing football, where all of them are wearing shorts. That's a big mindset. And the parents are sitting and watching it. And even for the mother, it's a shift to accept her daughter playing with the boys wearing shorts. Now, for how to look at it, it may not look like, oh, so what? It's only a dress. But no, it isn't. It is a lot of things that has happened in that small tribal village for everybody to accept and work with them to make the girl who's playing in that football to wear shorts along with the boys. So what I'm saying is, these might look like small activities, but it is a complete culture shift that we are talking about. For that, you need a lot of mindset that is completely acceptance, not just, in the front of everybody I'll say yes, but after that I'm not going to say yes. So I think some way we'll have to understand that these are very important. And because of that, they allow the girls to study. They are in school. They are finishing their 10th, 12th. It's also because of that. The mind shift of mother now has said, okay, I won't get my daughter married now, because she's doing very well in school. So I think we have to look at it in a very 360-degree angle, not only learning, but learning happens when you invest all of this. Only then it will happen. Otherwise it's very tough. Because, I don't know, SHG, she was saying, I went in 98, I was very young, and I just came from UK and I didn't know. I went into a village for a big SHG meet in one of the districts in Andhra Pradesh. And as usual, we all went very simple with the salwar and a Fab India cloth or whatever you call it, a little faded cotton dress. And there were around 5 lakh women had gathered. It was a SHG conference. And they were come beautifully dressed, everybody. And I was sitting in a corner somewhere, and one of the women got up, took the mic, and said, I want to understand whether this girl is happy to be here or not. And she told in Telugu. That time I didn't know Telugu much. So somebody translated saying she wants to know whether you are happy here or not. So I got up and said, yes, of course, I'm very happy to be here. I've never seen 5 lakh women under the same roof. Things like that. So they said, but you didn't dress up how you wanted to be. We all bought new clothes. We put flowers on our hair. We came all dressed up. You look as if you got up and came. And I'm like, okay. So what I'm saying is, look at that. And that is the time I realized, I thought I'm going to a small tribal village and they're having a conference of SHGs. And of course I knew 7.5 lakh women were coming. But I didn't realize how they interpret you. They said, you're not happy to be here. Otherwise, you would have bought new clothes. You would have come very rang-birangi with bright color. So what I'm saying is, look at that mind shift. And they were women who did not come out of their house or their village or their, what do you call as Tanda and Penta. I hope you guys know Tanda and a Penta is smaller than village, and they wouldn't have come out of that. Today they've come for a conference and then they're asking somebody whom they don't even know, a stranger, whether you're happy or not. Look at the confidence level. So I think all this happens when you work together for a long time. As you say, it's just 1 year doesn't matter at all. You have to work for ages, generations. Only then it comes of a mind shift. No, it's not just activity like CSR who supports for 2 years, 3 years and goes. I said, it doesn't happen like that.
Any last thoughts from anyone of you? Yeah, sure. It seems to come to me and not you. Sorry.
With respect to the 21st century skills, this is wishful thinking, but I think we are at that juncture where innovations like Gen AI, ChatGPT, all of this has started to challenge us to think about what do we need to learn for future of work. Is our education setting up our students to be ready for work? If that is the question, then I do see a breakage in the link. Are employers and educators communicating to understand what is required, what should children of today learn? Or is the goal of education to create, like someone said, great citizens, empathetic thinkers, people who can actually think and, like the gentleman there said, contextual solutions to problems, local problems, right? If that is what we want education to do, again, thinking about are the subjects, are the curriculum, extracurriculars also equipping a child to actually be an innovator, a problem solver. Again, like I said, this is wishful thinking because of the kind of scale we have in the country. While it is possible to sort of seed those innovations or alternative methods of learning into the education system, we also have to think about how can this be done across the country and not just, it shouldn't just be elite. How is it also accessible? I think that's also a question I personally am leaving this conversation with.
Are we finishing up or do we go around or what?
Up to you, but yeah, these are going to be the last thoughts because the time is up.
No, this is great. Really appreciate all the comments. And one thing that I think you mentioned about the policy change. So in addition to the mindset and all the groundwork from all these local organizations, localization and contextualization, that's all amazing. So actually it sort of really fits into what I do at my foundation. Is what we're currently doing is because we have been able to establish these separate relationships with different stakeholders in the global education landscape, such as the government ministries, the UN agencies, financial institutions like World Bank and regional banks, some OECDs and think tanks, and the private people like myself. So what I'm currently actually leading is to bring in these UN agencies to provide the legitimacy, where I bring in all the government ministers to actually sign an international agreement to commit to having a national policy in their countries to support parents. And because I know that the government policymakers cannot do this on their own, because they need to spend their political capital, which they're reluctant to do, and then also it's difficult for them to set aside additional budget to make that happen. So I bring in the World Bank to provide financing to countries in order to implement these policies. And private organizations like myself, I have agreed to fund and develop a curriculum. They will actually create a new category of profession. You talked about the future of work and the skill set that people need. So we are trying to develop what we call a parent tutors, because it turns out all this data that I'm collecting from UNICEF, World Bank, and OECD, there is enough evidence out there. There's enough of these, parent handbooks and brochures, and it's all being distributed globally. Spend hundreds of millions of dollars to produce them, print them out to parents who don't know how to read and who don't know how to utilize all these resources. What they do need is hands-on support next to them to help them how to use these things so they can actually make a difference at home. So in order to produce these type of parent tutors, they need to have some kind of a credentials. So that is what my foundation, we have an institute. We are currently providing this curriculum, and that's where what gentleman back there said about localization. Because whatever curriculum that we develop, it cannot be applied to all countries. So we are working with different national universities in different countries. So for example, with India, it is Azim Premji University. I heard that school is well known for their educational program. So we asked them to localize this curriculum that we developed to the Indian culture's context, into their languages that are endorsed and promoted by that university itself, as well as the Indian Ministry of Education and Indian Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship. That will be pushed out to millions of unemployed youth who don't know what to do with their lives right now, and they can actually be encouraged to go through this curriculum, get employed, and they can start working hands-on with families at home. And in theory, that should solve 4 problems. One, obviously, the educational problems, because there is more than enough research that clearly suggests that when parents are supported and engaged, the children will do better in every aspect of their academic performances and all that. Second is the economic problem. Because they start working, where they're going to spend that money. They're going to spend it back to their national economies. They're going to be renting homes, they're going to paying taxes, they're going to spend money on groceries, so that goes back to them. Third, it solves the social problems. We talked about because the parents are now creating healthier dynamics at home, they're less likely to get into school violence, joining the gangs, getting into all kinds of social problems, and also reduces the unemployment rate of the country. Fourth is the healthcare problems. If the parents can tell their children things as simple as wash your hands before you eat, that can eliminate hundreds of millions of children from getting sick and dying. And that can reduce hundreds of billions of dollars in healthcare costs. So those are the things that policy can really do. The parents and the teachers and the local, we can do so many things at home on the ground up at the micro level, but also need support from the government level to create such policies, to create a national environment where these type of things can actually happen easier. So that is one of the efforts that we're trying to do, and hopefully it'll make a difference.
When do I see a mindset shift? So this is a question that I am looking forward for the future. One is when I see the inclusivity in the ecosystem. Uh, when I say ecosystem, it's even us being here working for children. So when I see inclusivity in the classroom, for me, the inclusivity in the classroom is something where young people have access to everything, even in a remote place. So then I see the mindset shift is happening. So to do this, what I really feel is like even the education sector and social sector, these both sector should work together. When we work together, we can see the difference. I think it will take time, but yeah, it will definitely happen.
I just have a wish, basically, everything that I've heard today. Um, I just hope that, the good work that all organizations are doing, like ours, many in the audience, can really accelerate the requirement to change the way we have all our entrance exams. Because the moment that happens, I think top down, suddenly everybody will want holistic development. Suddenly that will take the center stage. And I really hope that happens and it's accelerated. So that's my only thought.
I think so. When I started, thanks. When I started thinking about this session, the question I was asking was, what are the key ingredients for 21st century education? And looks like as holistic that the skills have to be, it is also a holistic problem solving that we all together need to do. That's what I take back. And I mean, I'm not saying it as a, I'm not getting scared of it. I'm not creating that kind of emotion. But what I feel hopeful is that I think each one of us are looking at this from a holistic perspective, and therefore, like Ansar was saying, I feel very hopeful. But yes, it's a holistic solution required, and that's the key ingredient is what I'm taking back. So thank you so much for your time and for contributing to this, and thank you so much, everyone here.